call to order the August 5th meeting of Miami Township Board of Trustees. I would entertain a motion to adopt the minutes of our last regular meeting, July 15.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments, discussion?
I'm good.
I sent mine too.
Trustee Moore sent me a typo on spelling of a name and it had been corrected.
Could we call the roll, please?
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the minutes of the July 15, 2024 meeting. Mr. Musher?
Yes.
Ms. Moyer?
Yes.
Mr. Hollister?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Entertain a motion to approve payment of bills Whoops! Totaling $85,000.
What'd I do? What'd I write?
$85,136.72. I'm exclaiming on how it's higher than most months.
There is a special meeting minutes noted for approval.
Right.
Excuse me, back up. Entertain motion to pass the special meeting minutes from July 29.
So moved.
Second.
Nicely transcribed. It captured the essence of the meeting perfectly.
Yes, thank you.
This was an executive session that had no decision, so the minutes are basically...
We had a decision. That's okay.
Yeah.
Very brief.
very brief minutes. Been moved and seconded. Call the
Moved
roll.
and seconded to adopt the minutes of the special meeting of July 29, 2024. Mr. Musher?
Yes.
Ms. Moyer?
Yes.
Mr. Hollister?
Yes.
Minutes are adopted.
Again, I'd entertain a motion to approve payment of bills totaling $85,136.72.
I move that we pay those.
Write them down or just let them go?
I forgot our routine. General fund, $9,506.22. Cemetery, $5,700.50. Fire fund, $25,664.04. And the road fund, $44,265.96.
Obviously, maybe
over now.
And Gina, never mind, doesn't matter. Let's do
Do I
it.
hear,
I'll move for approval.
And I'll second.
I assume the road fund is paying for some of our summer upgrades.
Equipment.
This is equipment, not the road paving?
That was probably for beach
The new-
equipment.
The new mower.
It could be some paving on
No,
that.
paying is yet
It
too.
was, I emailed you guys
Yeah.
that large Hensley.
Yeah, it's close, it's 38 grand for the road paving, so I thought the equipment- more to come, more roads.
Could we call the roll?
It's been moved and seconded to approve payment of bills in the amount of $85,136.72 as enumerated. Mr. Musher?
Yes.
Ms. Moyer?
Yes.
Mr. Hollister?
Yes.
Motion's approved.
So we have folks here from Yellow Springs Development Corporation and from Tecumseh Land Trust. Unless either of you folks are in terrible hurry, I'd like to finish our reports and then have new business. Fire Department report.
Okay. Since last meeting, we had 36 EMS calls, 15 fire, requested for mutual aid from us, one time, none for fire, and then we received 6 EMS and 2 for fire. In really awesome news, Justin is set to return to full duty the 3rd week in August. His last session for PT, I think, is the 12th, and then he's just waiting to go see the orthopod. So we are ready to have him back, and he is very excited to be back.
You remind us, he was hurt at the Hawthorne
Correct.
Department, and What month was that?
August.
Yeah.
It's been
It's been a year.
Slim presents.
Yep,
Slim
correct.
presents.
August 3rd, fireworks parade, and a touch of truck, all that went flawlessly from my perspective, so that was great. Good to have a redo. Medic 82 had brake repair, and I do know how to spell brake, not as in a fracture. Of course, I printed it all out and stapled it and walked over here, and I'm like, really? That's going to be to the tune of around $3,000. We were originally kind of going to do it in-house since I have a diesel mechanic, and then we decided that that wasn't going to work. So we took the parts to Fisher and had that done. It was actually front and backs and rotors and the whole 9 yards.
For $3,000 only?
I thought it was a lot of money, but I probably not really on the grand scheme of things. But you know, that same time Medic 82 is out of service, it's a hairy thing. More of an FYI, this will probably be more to Chris than anything else. The domestic water pump is being a little flaky, so I'm going to be calling them tomorrow. You'll remember it's got 2 pumps and it alternates between the 2. Well, the first pump number 1 hasn't been working, and pump number 2 shut down today, and we were getting hot water, or still getting hot water actually in all faucets.
Really?
On the cold side, because the water heater tank is the highest thing in the building,
Yeah,
basically.
sure.
So, yeah, and they come out of Cincinnati, so hopefully they can, we'll see, fingers crossed. I'll let you know how that goes. We'll skip the life pack part to start with. Stryker cot replacement update. Just for that, I'm waiting for the $40,000 to come in from the grant before I make a formal proposal to ask for our contribution to that. I enrolled in a SHRM Essentials for HR course this afternoon. I'm also going to call Buckeye Generator and have them come PM our generator, and may look at seeing what we need to do as far as the service contract goes with that. Because, you know, it runs an hour every week, hasn't had oil change since then, which is okay because it gets tested before they change it, just like our engines do. So just some PM maintenance on that. I'm going to request that we finance a Life Pack 35. I talked about in the last meeting that, you know, we got put in a really rough spot where we have to take one is no longer repairable of the Life Pack 15s if it goes out of service. Physio Control is really grateful for us being willing to purchase their product, that they're happy to finance it for $19,166.59 in 3 annual payments. That gives us a $2,500 trade-in, which brings the price down to $52,797.20 total if we bought it outright. The budget can't handle that. I'll figure the $19,000 out because it's just, quite frankly, it's not an option. As I explained in the last meeting, this came up because there are multiple versions of our Life Pack, and our version is at end of life. So I guess I need a motion to approve that purchase. I did apply, I forgot to mention, there are a couple other pieces of document that just show the breakdown of the numbers that's behind my report part. Outside of that, that's all. Well, that's all I have for report-wise.
Anyone want to move to authorize purchase of Life Pack 35 on the 3-year annual payment plan?
So moved.
I'll second.
Roughly, it's 57,000 versus 52,000.
Yep. Sorry, I forgot to include it that way.
So the motion is to buy Life Pack 35 from Stryker on the 3 annual payments of $19,166.59 each year. Any other discussion?
It just occurs to me, Chris and I think you were there, we attended really impressed at a conference, the Township Association conference. Remember the woman who talked to us about lease purchase of large equipment and stuff, and they always, every example they gave, they went and met with an entity and said, oh, you need that? Well, what else do you need? Well, if you get this, this, and this at the same time, we can give you like this creative, cost-saving thing. I don't think this is a situation, this is a defibrillator.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is a situation where we can stop and wait and take a more holistic view of how we finance everything.
But we could do that for the second one,
Yeah.
depending on what we do
Or
with that
if,
phase.
you may not know this and it's not important, if, is there a chance to pay it off early if we get it better
Yes, we can.
finances? Okay, yeah, that's all.
Yep.
But yeah, get it right away. It's a defibrillator?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Just as an FYI, I'll send you an email about this, but I'm going to take Friday off. I'm looking at how much I still have to
We want to
use.
stay on this topic.
Oh, I'm so
We haven't
sorry.
voted yet.
You should have smacked
I
me.
was ready to.
I just smacked you.
I get sidetracked and she tries to.
Would you call the roll, please?
It's been moved and seconded to approve payment, to approve purchase of a Black Pack 35 from Stryker, 3 annual payments of $19,166.59. Mr. Moser?
Yes.
Ms. Moran?
Yes.
Mr. Hollister?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Now I can
proceed.
say. You'd think I'd be used to that. I was going to take Friday off because obviously I have a lot of not PTO time, but vacation time to use up still. I might do Monday. Some of you are aware I'm in a low back pain study, and I'm going to go have that procedure done on Monday. So I'll keep you posted on that. I don't think it'll be a problem, but I'll let you know. That's all I have.
Any other questions of the fire chief?
Fireworks were fun. Touch a Truck was fun, and the care flight was fun.
Yeah, everybody, even the non-children like. It's pretty cool to see it land. Yeah, it is really cool.
So the care flight landing was part of Touch a Truck.
Yep. Yeah, they were late. They had 2 different calls for the aircraft, so they ended up arriving a little late. And then the fireworks guys were pretty cool about actually delaying the fireworks a little bit to get it done.
It was cool to see it lift off, too.
Yeah. It's alarming when you see the wheels stuck in the ground and they lift off and you're like, oh, that a few times too.
You're on site.
The pilots actually like it. They just get to rev the engines some more.
Cemetery report.
Okay, since the last meeting, we've had 2 burials. We had a burial in the Oak Grove, not a tree space. And we had ashes in the old part of the Woodland Forest Cemetery. Today, they done our paving in the cemetery today. Done a real nice job. It's real good. Should be good to go for a while, and that's the end of our road work for the year.
This was paving in Glen
Woodland
Forest.
Forest Cemetery, yes, sir.
They filled the curve okay or something?
Took care of it, yeah. But down by the maple tree, they didn't, but we'll do something down there sometime, by the bench.
Yeah.
And we'll do something by that. Sometime, I know.
They grind the bone?
Yeah, yeah, it's real nice. It's still tied off, you can't drive on it, but
Yeah.
yeah, it looked real nice, they did a nice job. Wednesday or Thursday, I'm gonna do the gravel
Oh, yeah.
in Oak Grove.
Mhm.
So Brandon, he'll be mowing Clifton, so I've lined up.
Are we rolling that first or just put it on? and-
I'm gonna run the roller over what's there
Uh-huh.
and scrape the prairie
Mhm, right.
section down again, and then we'll roll everything down when we're done.
Mhm.
So I have not been out there. This is a new road that hasn't been gravel at all before.
It's got the base down,
Base-
it's gonna
base
get some
gravel.
topping on it, and it should be good to go for a while. Be a lot smoother.
Somebody's letting.
Well, I don't have to answer it.
But that's all I have for cemetery.
Road report?
Brandon will finish trimming South River Road in the morning, and we'll be done with the trim.
What did you trim today?
Kyle, part of South, and then he went and done Kyle. He's just got an hour and a half on South River to finish. And then he'll go mow Clifton and start mowing.
Sometime when he or you has a chance, would you inspect to see if Grinnell Circle needs a whole lot of trimming?
Oh, it probably does need trimming. So Grinnell Circle needs to be trimmed.
I'm
yes.
just wondering if anybody's done that.
I missed it.
There are definitely parts of Grinnell Circle where if a heavy
Yeah,
truck,
I just-
if a heavy truck went on it, it would squish the
My bad.
asphalt.
I got ahead of myself. Okay.
But I'm gonna vote next year, get some sort of treatment.
So other than that, that's all I have. Now I'm going to trim Grinnell Circle too.
I made a quick trip to the roads, and I thought everything, plus or minus, looked really nice. That's an awful lot of work, and, and you can tell where you started because
It's already
it's getting longer.
Well, a couple weeks we'll
Yeah.
start it in.
It's amazing.
Start the third round. It'll be a third. Try to get 4 rounds a year.
You lucked out with a little dry weather, though.
I
It
know.
slowed it down
I
just
know,
a
it's
touch.
really helped. So. That's it.
Can I say something?
Sure.
There will be couple guys out there this week, yeah.
Hey,
to talk to.
cemetery.
Yeah, they'll be removing goldenrod.
I wondered. I talked to a guy today. He's going to be up there, and he's going to meet me up there tomorrow.
Yeah, he's got some
This
ideas
is
on how.
in the prairie.
Yeah.
He said he's done some work. I didn't ask what kind, but
Yeah,
I've got a meeting there in the morning sometime.
Removal of invasive and try and create a method of narrowing the paths again. He's got some ideas, so, yeah. That's right, you were out with your injury when we made the discovery that our 10-foot paths that were originally made are in some places now 14 and one place even 16, so it took us 10 years to expand our path that much. We're going to try to bring it back.
Well, that's the original path. Is that wide? The original area laid out is the width, that width, not just 10 foot. Because the grades actually start 4 foot off the edge of what 10-foot wide path is there.
Well, we better,
Because there's stones
Sure
are
we know what we
sitting,
want.
all the stones are sitting around so you can see the stone. That's why they're
They'd
close.
have to be moved if you
Yeah, we have
could
to,
go through and bring
okay,
them.
well, then we got.
we'll work on that.
You guys can work it out.
Okay.
Anything else
Although that's an
for
awful lot of stone moving, too.
Yeah.
cemetery or roads?
Can I say something?
Sure.
I don't know, Marilyn, if you shared this, but, we were told at a recent service that it was all like sold out or whatever, that like all the land was, spoken for. And so anyway, so I think that's not true.
That's not
And
true.
so,
In which particular section, Brian? Section?
well, it was when we had, what was, it was Susan's service.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody mentioned that, like,
Yeah.
there were,
So he was in
there were no
section.
spots left or whatever.
No.
No.
And
So a
so,
lot, but there's still quite a few.
yeah, so anyway, so I just wanted to make sure, that was,
Okay.
Let's not spread that.
yeah, disused or whatever, so,
Yeah.
anyway,
Thank you.
so, yeah.
This is your chance to plug the Oak Grove.
Yeah, we got 500, we got 500 spaces.
I know, I'm trying to get my spot there too, yeah, so, yeah. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure you guys knew that,
Did you bring your checkbook?
I think I've got it in my car, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dan, real quick, on Larkins,
Yes, sir.
towards the Cedarville side, are there 2 home sites being put up?
I think so. There are 2 entrances. One, there is a home. They built a building and then they set a prefab home in there. I think it's in there already.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And on down, there's another entrance I'm not sure if that's for a house or just the entrance, but they've got a permit for both of them.
Yeah.
They do? Okay.
Mhm.
All right, I just want to.
Yeah, I talked to her a couple
I
times.
don't, let's see. One is ready, the other is not.
It's setting, I just talked to her last week, and she wanted to know about it, told her she had to lower it.
Okay, yeah,
And I
they're
told
gonna
her-
be building.
Okay.
The whole family split up the farm, they're all building. So,
It just seemed like the driveway culvert was a little high.
Yeah, that's what I talked to her last week, and I said you have to lower it, and I want them to go out a little bit on each side of it for drainage. I never see water there, but, to make it lower so they can go over it with some cover.
Mhm.
But, yeah, I just talked to her last week.
Yeah.
We're good.
Just wondering. That's all I had, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Fiscal officer, Gina.
Okay, folks, I'm trying to catch up on bill pay, and it's been 1 week longer since you all met, 3 weeks instead of the normal 2, so, and we had some big bills come in, which is why it's a little higher. But I did update the account. I don't have it from Star Bank. I haven't gotten their bill yet for the end of July, so that's still June's figure, but that's the updated one for US Bank for the end of July. And Chris had mentioned maybe moving some over to Star Bank so that it's getting some interest instead of just sitting.
Star Fund, just to be sure.
Yes, oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was
Star
thinking
Bank.
that. Star Fund is a state overseen mutual fund.
Yes, that instead of US Bank. So I'll look into transferring that, so capitalizing what we have in there. Employee, I guess I have a question about the paper files. What is in storage at this hut? We'll talk about. And then,
Wisconsin.
All your history, my dear, all your history.
so are all the employee files,
Yeah.
for example,
Mhm.
those are all there? Because when I was going to file, like Carrie's and mine were the newest. I assume Denny has all his firefighting ones, but,
But our old ones are out there too.
okay.
But our files, employee files, are in the bottom of the safe, in the drawer
Ah, okay,
at the bottom of the safe.
okay.
Now, I'd like to say they were our current employees, but it goes back probably 30, 40, 50 years worth of employees. We don't have that many employees, it's not much turnaround,
So that
but
could
most of those people are still there.
Called a bit, okay, great, that is good to know. Because also, as far as when the auditor needed stuff, there were some things, that I was trying to find paper files of. I didn't know if it's stuff the auditor already had, I didn't know if it was at the hut, I didn't know, so just wanting to know where some of the old
Okay. Just ask.
files are.
We can tell you.
And maybe at some point I should take a look out there. so
Yeah, you should.
I know what this
Yeah,
looks like.
You'll eventually spend some quality time out there.
Is it air conditioned? All right, let's see, maybe in the fall.
It's not heated either. Well,
Actually, Ben and I discovered when I was up there that your oil heater was dripping
on.
hot oil.
I replaced it last year.
Well, you have to replace it again.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was still on when we got
it was
out
still
there.
on and there's hot oil on the table, so we almost lost all records. Not-
We cleaned it up, but you'll have to
We
get it.
probably-
Can I leave the room for a minute, please?
It's not a hazard.
Plausible deniability.
No kidding.
So anyway, it's not heated, but October would be a good month.
Oh, you're somewhere in between, okay. Yeah, I just want to get a feel for where some of these are from. And then just at some point, we should update the website, because it still has, and even just there was somebody who I think we tried to eat, just so that it's easier for people to contact me, the ongoing thing with the voicemail, and then also, so that my email is on the website.
Oh,
It's still not my picture, it's the old FO's picture and bio, and
okay, Gina's picture.
most importantly, my email, so that people know how to reach out to me on the website.
And some other things, and there's a multiple things.
Yeah, we can update Don, so
We'll
we're
put
at his
a picture
picture.
of me on there too.
You'll have to sit still and let me take one.
Well, we
No,
got
we've
the
got-
one at the
we've got some
conference, so
pictures
we're,
at the
yeah,
conference.
we'll just update a little bit. That's all I can think of for now.
So, can I say something else? I never come to you guys, your meetings or whatever, but Gina, I think it would be great if you connected with our finance director, Michelle Robinson, about Star, Ohio, just because the village has had a lot of success about, kind of figuring out how to shift our investments to take advantage of that opportunity, because you can download those funds in a day. So, anyway,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
I think that would help with your learning curve.
Okay.
So,
Reaching out to Michelle. All right, thank you.
yeah.
So we give you a percentage of what,
None of that.
I just figure since I'm here, I should, share some knowledge, but yeah.
Great.
any other finance questions? Carrie,
Hello.
zoning inspector,
I think at the
a little
last,
while longer.
I think at the last meeting I was at, I told you all I wouldn't be here because I was a week off. I thought this week was the fair, but here I am. I don't know what I was thinking. Okay, so I think you have the zoning commission case, the text amendment, case 2024-001T on the small solar. Yes, so they,
Do not.
Do you, Chris?
do you have it? Do you have a copy of it? Great. Mary, I emailed it.
Sorry, I missed it.
Oh, it's okay. So at their meeting, they, sorry, I was looking to see. Oh, here we go. I have my file here too. At the meeting on July 16th, they passed to recommend this to you. I will actually, if you'd like, I can just give you this whole folder. Do you want it? Okay. This is just all the paperwork, probably some unnecessaries, the resolution, and the actual text. Yeah, so they yeah. There you go. So they just, they recommend that you adopt that as written. So you'll need to hold your public hearing within the next 20 to 40 days.
Well, let's just repeat this. This has to do with
July 16th.
Okay.
small solar, parentheses, self-generation, on-site for consumption, on-site,
Correct.
and this is in the agricultural zone. Or all
I think
township
it's all.
It
zones.
says agriculture, R1A, R1B.
There you go.
Okay.
Each of those districts it's permitted in.
So we have a hearing, and then we vote.
And then at your hearing, if you choose, you can adopt it, deny it, or modify it, and then it would be in effect. If you deny it, of course, it'd be effective immediately. If you choose to adopt it or modify it, it would be effective 30 days after your hearing.
Does this qualify for an emergency resolution?
I don't think so.
There's no urgency, is it?
No. I just am trying to figure out what,
So our next meeting would be
Yeah.
August
the
19th.
19th. We could
I just
have,
learned what emergency resolutions were, so I'm
Well, I
trying to use it.
don't, not this.
Every resolution is not effective for 30 days. Every one that you pass, unless it's an emergency,
Oh, okay.
and then it's effective immediately. But you have to put a reason why it's an emergency on the resolution.
Gotcha. I don't know. That would be a good attorney question. But, I was gonna say something else, I forget. Oh,
If we,
you have-
it goes back to,
I'm sorry.
it goes back to, if we approve it, it stops here. If we modify, it goes back to zoning commission?
You can modify it.
Oh.
No, you don't. You just do it.
Yeah,
And-
if you want to modify anything, you guys can modify it and approve it in the same night.
Okay.
And
You
I've
just have-
never had anyone, and I've asked this a million times to all the zoning people I can find, I've never had anybody who can give me a good answer as to how much you can modify.
Yeah, right.
I I'd say you could modify the whole thing.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay. Here, what's the turn?
Yeah.
Likely, there's a little bit of case
And
law
sign your name at the
somewhere.
bottom.
3 acres, we'll change that to 3,000 acres. And setback,
Make sure it has your name on it.
5 feet, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, so there you go.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. And you'll need to, I think Marilyn and I have already talked about this, but you'll need to put a public notice in the paper
I think the news is still
for the hearing.
amenable to tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Yes, they
Okay.
would, for the next week.
And then, the only other thing I have, oh, of course, my computer just died. So I've given one permit for a deck. I'm working on another one for a house on Clifton Road, barn dominium.
Nice.
So, we'll see.
I want a barn dominium.
But that's, essentially they're homes. I think when it comes to barn dominium, I think that just, there's some differences that the building department looks at. Yeah.
Heard it here first. I've never heard of a barn dominium.
Oh, my goodness. Well, then you haven't been around zoning long enough. They're the new hot thing, and it's essentially just a house that looks like a barn on a slab. It's a slab house. How about that? So.
Sounds great.
Yeah, so we have that, and then we have the 3 cases coming up for the BZA on August 21st. We have a variance request on 343 for a home with, I forget the number of acres, 21 acres. They want to build, they want to build, there's a pond on the property, they want to build a little cabin home type thing, and 2 smaller, very small cabins for family. This will be their vacation spot. So essentially 3 homes on 1 property. I told them initially that, we're one dwelling per parcel, but they could combine it and have, sort of like the main house here, a little one here, if they're all attached. But they wanted to go this route, so. So that will be heard on August 21st. And then we have 2 agritourism requests, one for the sunflowers, and the other for Stony Creek Garden Center, right across the road from the sunflowers, to hold gardening classes. I think both very simple, easy, and appropriate requests for agritourism.
The 343 project, will they have water, septic, electricity?
Well, yeah. You mean for each home? Yes. Mm-hmm.
Can't do that.
I-
1 home per parcel. What's the
I
deal?
know.
Do you want to be appointed to the BZA?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. A quick shy.
We're about to be full,
Yeah.
even with alternates.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. They are fairly small. I was trying to look to see if we said how small. So, yeah, the primary residence would be 1,600 square feet. And then the 2 smaller ones, they want just 500 square feet each
On 1 parcel.
on 1 parcel. So honestly, that's going to be sort of second part to this variance because we have a minimum square footage.
That's true. Yeah, that's the second part.
But that's a whole nother.
Is there a main home on the 21 acres? Or
There
it-
was, but it was originally more than 21 acres. They are splitting it. They're splitting the existing home off with 3 acres. There's plenty of road frontage. So they're splitting,
But that road frontage doesn't affect this project.
there's plenty of road frontage to split both.
What's the original address?
It is 2368 State Route 343.
So theoretically, they're okay for the main house? Okay, so it's just these 2
Yes.
little dinky
Correct.
houses.
Yeah.
I see.
They're
Yes.
putting in a new driveway, or are they gonna use the existing driveway?
I believe they're gonna use the existing driveway. We're not that far yet, though. Yeah. No, actually, they are gonna put in a new driveway. But we're not there yet. One step at a time. I don't know. We'll see.
So I'd like to say congratulations on your new job. That you're
Thanks.
starting today?
Actually, I started 2 weeks ago.
Oh, shoot.
And then I took off a little time for the fair and then, yeah. Yeah.
So this hearing on the 21st,
Yeah.
I know you said you'd help us as long as
I
we
would.
were.
Yes.
So I imagine because of the nature of these questions that we either need you or I could find somebody else with more zoning
Yeah.
knowledge than I have to answer the questions for the BZA.
Yes. So I thought it would be no problem, but my new job, there's actually a meeting that evening also.
Of course.
It is just at 6 o'clock and this is at 7. So,
Okay.
I will do my best. Yeah, I know, right? Can I teleport?
Maybe we have our attorney come.
So, yeah, she could really answer those questions. Yes.
Yeah, let's ask.
Yes, or another option, I don't know, I think I might have mentioned to you, I don't know if you thought about hiring or contracting with regional planning. I was talking to Deandra and she said, would they want to contract with us for a while?
Oh, I didn't know that.
So those are some options.
This is not, so now you're not talking about that night, you're talking about replacing you.
Yeah,
But that night as well.
yeah, I mean, or that night as well.
Okay. I meant for the interim while we're,
Yeah, sorry.
I've,
no, I
It's
meant-
awful, I know.
that is, I'm not understanding, that we would have the option of contracting with Greene County Regional Planning Commission
Yeah, so
for staffing our
we used to do that in Spring
zoning
Valley years
inspector
ago.
function.
One of the planners, so Taylor, for instance, at the time it was a different planner who worked in regional planning's office, contracted in Spring Valley as our zoning inspector for a short time when we needed help. Anything that just came through the office, everybody else handled. I think that, and that's what it seemed like. We could ask them for sure, but yeah.
Well, we've had discussions.
Okay.
okay.
There's this week, there's a lot of things, the decisions that are being made about personnel, hiring, positions that are being hired for, that sort of thing. Amount of time, all those things are going to happen this week.
Okay. So I'll do my best. I don't know how to get here at 7.
Don't.
We appreciate it. We will take care of it.
Okay,
We're not worried
all
about it.
right, thank
Because-
you. I apologize. When I
No problem.
scheduled this and did the posting, it all worked out beautifully.
Deandra's well versed at it. We can get this to
Okay.
our legal staff
Okay.
well before it. And it's not a 20-page, document, so
And
which you can handle.
the home site,
Mhm.
2 additional little homes. The gentleman I've been working with is an engineer, and this is not his first time doing something like this, so he's also very knowledgeable about the whole process.
Mhm.
He's been really great to work with, so I don't imagine there would be a lot of difficult questions. from
Yeah.
him.
Wonderful.
So, there you go. I think that's all I had. Any questions for me?
I'll make a note to take your name off the website.
No, I'm so sorry.
No, don't be. Stop apologizing. I was thrilled when I heard you got your position.
Yep, okay, that's all I had.
Well, I guess I could speak for the board and thank you very much for your long and
I'm sorry it was so short.
long service. We're gonna have to work on a gold watch or something.
Oh, okay.
There were a lot of things to handle in that little bit of time.
There really was.
I think I've still got all that retirement.
Oh, there
No,
were
you
I wish it was retirement. If only.
So what is your official new title?
Building and zoning manager.
For Clinton
Or
County.
Clinton County. Yeah,
Nice.
they're unique and they have a countywide zoning for all the townships. They actually have 2 townships that are unzoned. And then they're too small to have their own building department, so they contract with Warren County. So my office just schedules that with those building inspectors. So everyone comes into our office to get zoning permits or building permits, and we handle the zoning permits and schedule building inspections. Yeah.
You like it
Nice,
so far?
small little county.
So far, you like it?
I do.
What's the commute time?
24 minutes.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay, I
not much difference than going.
Much as I would like to have more conversation, I think we're wandering from business.
It happens. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Feel free to
You
go.
have no need to stay.
Oh, I'll stay.
Okay.
So, anything else from the zoning inspector?
I do have files ready, though. I guess I should have said for each of those meetings on August 21st.
Great.
Everything's here, set up. And the postings have been made in the paper. Yeah, so we're ready to go.
You're right on top of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Brian, you don't have anything to add to this report? Any other? I'm just asking.
Wait a minute, you're not the chair.
Heavens.
I'm trying to control myself, so, yeah.
Kevin's coming with the boats and stuff.
So, you can argue whether YSDC is new or old business. But let's go ahead with the topic of
Sure. So in
YSDC's
June,
request for
in June, Brian
funding.
came before this group and presented a request for funding for this part-time executive director position. Then went back, regrouped, pulled together some data. I came in the interim without all the data ready. It wasn't ready yet. At this point, you should have all the requests fulfilled. The village has gone through the voting process and approved a line item for funding for that position. And we've got the position posted. We're now collecting resumes, evaluating resumes, and then we'll be working on that as a board next week?
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
For the video, how much did the village?
40,000. And hopefully you guys saw the resolution that we included in the documents. We got 54 applications.
Wow.
And tomorrow we're going to evaluate 8 that we shortlisted, which I think I'm okay saying, like, Colin Altman is one of those applications. So he had applied for a job with the village, and I was really excited to see that he's back on the market. But pretty impressive group that have applied.
So he's back from Europe?
Yes, and apparently like bored, so.
There's some volunteer
So, yeah.
positions available.
Yeah.
Firehouse.
Yeah, well, this is a part-time position, so there'll be plenty of volunteer time as well, so.
But we are going through a process of evaluation
Yes.
with all personal details redacted.
Yes.
Well, we had brief discussion of this before, and in that meeting or subsequently, Chris asked a series of questions, and Marilyn had made a motion that we give 10,000. And I can't remember, technically, do we table it, or?
I can give you the,
We made a motion that we contribute, with no dollar amount in that motion.
And the request was for 20,000, but yeah.
So, Chris,
Mhm.
have you read the answers?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
What would you like to say?
if I could just have a couple minutes, and Corey, I appreciate all the work that went into getting that information for us. It was quite complete, and there was just a little bit, there was no breakdown of 2019.
Okay.
I just was wondering, there's no startup money from the village, but I didn't know if we put any in there or not, but it doesn't really matter. I was just trying to be.
Oh, like a kind of a snapshot of the founding
Yeah.
in financial terms?
Yeah, but that's fine. I mean, I got a little bit from it from 2020 where it said what, how much was brought over from 19, but I wasn't sure where that money came from. Anyway,
Well, and just to say, 2019, we were formally put together like mid-year in 2019, so we didn't start the dues until 2020. So that was part of why there wasn't like really any financial information for 2019. So it was June of 2019 that the YSDC became more formal. I mean, we had some meetings before that, but yeah.
And Chris was part of that.
I remember.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was there. Yeah, you were.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we looked for, but we didn't see any, like, financials from 2019, so.
well, then let me back up just a second. I didn't have pages, but I guess it would be the first page. It says investment of $98,000. It was recently approved $40,000. This is the village. $19,000 startup donation. Well, that's great.
What page are we looking at?
Who gave it?
First page, what I handed out.
That's
The Village Yellow Springs gave a $19,000 startup. This is a long time ago, but I thought we gave a small amount for a startup, but it doesn't matter. I'm just trying to figure out. I didn't have any of the 19 records, so I didn't know. I knew we probably didn't start dues yet, but the other two I wasn't sure about.
The other piece of it too is we've been kind of tracing down the line here for the separate funding request of us for funding, but for the revolving loan fund, which is another piece of the puzzle too.
Right. But that 19,000 came in 2020 when the village passed that resolution to say the YSDC would be our economic development arm.
Okay, well, that makes it even more interesting because on their 1040 form or whatever they supplied to the IRS, it says this was for 2020, but there's a form that said what their prior year assets were coming into 2020. The prior year assets were 17,000. So I don't know where that 17,000 came from. If it wasn't your 19,000, or well, that was just a little thing. Two things, I guess, still on that. I'm really confused a little on the Department of Energy, the solar grant. I think when Lisa was here, she said that was unrestricted.
Yes.
If it's unrestricted, why don't you use that money to pay for this interim, our new part-time director?
Yeah, that is an option for us if we can't secure the funding otherwise.
Okay, so you
It's
do
always
have
an
access.
option.
You do have access to that money.
We have access to that money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that money at this point earmarked for anything particular?
For the project for which it was applied.
Yeah. So we have already applied for that second round of funding, and the intention there is to essentially maximize our dollars towards building community solar as intended. So I think, as we've talked about, if it comes to a need to tap that fund in order to maintain this position, then we would desire as a group to also set some benchmarks for working towards completion of solar in some way, shape, or form.
I did notice, and I did ask, I did request, the amounts that were committed from the different political subdivisions, and for any individual donations that were made. And it didn't look like there were any individual donations made over the course of the YSDC's history.
So there were a couple of donations that were, well, I guess I'm just focused in on the revolving loan fund. There was the community foundation during COVID had some kind of a QR code thing that you would donate money towards a fund. Then they split off some amount of that and shunted it over into the revolving loan fund at the time, which was then dispersed out to the businesses as forgivable loans in 2 rounds. The second round of which the township also contributed funds towards replenishing it and then widening the lens so that we were bringing in more township-specific businesses towards that. But are you asking about like a capital campaign from us as far as like grants or?
Just the 4 years that, that you've been in operation, has anybody put, $5,000 in it, or anybody put $10,000, or anybody put $50? I mean, I didn't see a list of individual
Yeah, I did
contributions.
not. I was not able to find that either, and I went looking for it as well.
And I didn't see it in any of the audits or the tax records. So I just want to make sure I was on the right
Well,
page.
and I do want to mention, so basically the contributors have been the village, the township, the community foundation, and then
Dues.
the dues. But we did learn today that $5,000 that was dedicated for, and I think it was mentioned in there, the Mills Lawn evaluation
Yeah, right.
was shifted to evaluating the Antioch College sites, which, we've recently learned has, led to what looks like a bunch of apartments and other things. So there was some money that wasn't used for Mills Lawn that was shifted to Antioch College development. So, but otherwise, yeah, there haven't been any like individual donors or anything like that. So.
We also haven't asked.
Oh.
And I think part of it is that we haven't had a project where we say, okay, here we go, all green lights, and now we can go to the community or go to the big donors and say, this, yes, no, we need this much, let's go, capital campaign. So in a way, we still have that in our pocket because we haven't turned and burned those relationships.
You've got Miami Township listed at 13.5, 10,000 for forgivable loan fund donation and annual dues. I kind of sort of spearheaded that forgivable loan. We called it, I think we called it something rescue. And we obviously received the money from the government to disperse for that purpose. And I spent a lot of time calling different philanthropic organizations to see whether that was something that they did. And I finally got down to Ms. Jennings at the police department, who was taking over that role at the time. And I made those arrangements with her, and we sent the money to her. Now, what she did with it, I don't know. I just, I trusted her with the money. I just assumed that she had some plan on how to distribute it. And again, we weren't going to make the decision who it went to or what criteria was that it went to. We left it all up to her. And as far as I know, she did a wonderful job. But I had no idea any of this money was going into the development fund.
I'm not sure if this is the same money. Because there was money that you brought into the organization from the township. When we did the second round of revolving loans, I think we had maybe 12,000 left to work with after the first round. And then you brought in another 10, bumped it up, and then we gave away most of that.
That I don't remember.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if you have two COVID stacks of money that you distributed.
I thought we did, and I thought I distributed both of them to Ms. Jennings. I have no recollection of any Yellow Spring development.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
do you mean-
we have a process.
Do you mean Florence?
Yes.
Okay.
Florence Randall.
Yeah, Randolph.
Oh, Randolph, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last name?
Yeah.
We have pretty meticulous records of the applications coming in, the notices that went out, we had profit and losses for everybody. The credit union administered the distribution of those loans, and then the forgiveness, they had to meet specific criteria in order to qualify for forgiveness, which I think almost everybody did, and finally everybody did. So yeah, we have a pretty robust process for that.
And that was 14 businesses that benefited from the, forgivable loan program.
Yeah, we called it a rescue fund, not
Yeah,
a
we'd have to-
loan.
we'd have
We
to
never
follow
even
up
thought
with-
about it being a loan.
Was that CARES Act money?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd have to follow up with Florence though,
Yeah.
because there might have been another disbursement.
Yeah, I don't
that you guys
remember
made.
anything coming from Florence to the DC.
Yeah, I thought what Florence handled was to individuals, families that were burdened.
That may be the case, and I do remember now that we did fund one Miami Township business in Clifton
Yes.
for some amount. And again, I just don't think that went through Community Foundation or YSDC or.
I thought it went similar to the credit union when it was I have those applications.
Doesn't really matter, I'm just trying to keep it clear in my head, because I don't consider that economic development, I consider that economic supplement or rescue, in bad times. It didn't bring any new jobs or new taxes or new people into town, it just helped what we had during a very critical,
Saved part of
Yeah.
time for our economy. And I just, it bothers me to see all this money that you're putting in this report that like, you went out and got it. Well, for us anyway, we searched out somebody to give it to.
Oh gosh, we're just reporting on
We were
on what the
not
money
being,
was
we were
and
not
where,
being, we were not
just
being approached for it.
fulfilling your request for sort of a listing of line items that, yeah. I don't think it comes with any kind of emotional baggage of any kind, except it's just a reporting of what happened there.
Yeah, I also just quickly want to add, it was hard to figure out what a contribution, so again, we recorded it as an investment, but we were trying to think about what that looks like. But I want to say, Chris, I appreciate that the township decided to work with the YSDC on the fire station sale, and I know there are different thoughts about that, but I think the process was good. I think, somebody had to negotiate that deal. And, so that was part of where, we were trying to figure out, what's a contribution? So again, we found, the village did, say, all right, $19,000 for startup costs to, get it established. But, I think there have been a lot of contributions that have been really good for just moving the organization forward. So I appreciate that the township has been involved. And in particular, when I found that $10,000 for the revolving loan fund, I was like, wow, that was cool. That was not on the radar as clear as it should have been. So you guys have been really great contributors. So.
I find it interesting, Brian and Corey, that in the whole document, Miami Township isn't mentioned once as a contributor because of the firehouse contribution. You know, you would think that us giving you or selling you that building for $1 and then allowing you to market it and giving you an 8% commission, whereas a seller's commission would be 3%. And you got 8%. You got $35,000 for that. In addition to the different expenses, and I beat this dead horse, but in addition to the different expenses like the utilities that you never shut off and the survey that you never paid for and the radon that had to be, whatever that's called. But anyway, but nothing in here says, even in the contributions section, it doesn't list $50,000 that we, in effect, put into the pot. I mean, we could have done that ourselves. We didn't have to have anybody else do it. I mean, you could have done it. You could have done it through any of the local realtors, but you decided not to use the realtors. You put tremendous amount of money into lawyers for this project. I mean, it was like $8,000 worth of legal fees for this, and I don't know what else went into it. But the point was, it just irks me that Miami Township was never mentioned in this document as to contributing $50,000 to YSDC.
So there is a section that talks about the fire station sale, which has added a lot of
the section, Brian, that says,
it's prior to
et cetera, it says, such as the sale of the former fire station, doesn't say anything about Miami Township. YSDC created a process to choose a buyer that involved 8 criteria, highlighting community values to ensure positive outcome for our residents, stimulating downtown businesses. What got stimulated? And achieving a multiplier effect, I don't understand that having to do with Firehouse, on our local economy are many of the other ROI-related results.
So, and then in the ROI section, we talk about what is being contributed property tax-wise. I think the other piece that's important to highlight here is that a realtor would have charged 6%.
No, they charged 3%. There's a buyer and a seller.
I don't know, like 6% is what we're paying with the CBE, so I don't know, maybe that's different. I know there were at least $15,000 in legal costs that were part of what the YSDC absorbed.
There was no $15,000 reported in any of your audits. Where's the $15,000?
I mean, we could dig into it for sure.
Well, I dug into
I thought you
it.
said 8,000. But what I'm hearing is that it sounds like
I'm sorry, 6,000.
there's more of a, like it's more important that there's a desire for the township as an entity to be recognized as really a foundational, contributing,
Well, it has been up to this
important.
point.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and have that tied more to the Miami Township's identity. That you would like Miami Township to have more credit in public and in these written documents for every part of the Miami Township's contributions to this group.
Just as much as anyone else is listed here. Community Foundation says $27,000. Of course, you paid those people back $8,000 in fiscal sponsor loans, $8,607. So you got some from them, and then you paid them some. So it was kind of, it wasn't a wash, but it was, you were paying them. I don't want to take too much time. I'm sorry I'm to this point, but I think the last one I had was this ROI. On page, doesn't have a page.
Yeah, which page has a second page, I guess?
Or third. First, second, and third. Third page, it's got the block with it says project, Department of Energy, Community Solar Initiative, taxes generated, hard to estimate, but increased property values, more taxes, cost saving, mitigated levy costs, living budgets for residents. I don't see that generating anything. Pandemic forgivable loan program. You're taking credit for that to increase income tax and revenues and support services for township residents. That I don't understand at all. In Byron's flight retention, you do admit that you lost $1,000 in property taxes because they left. Open for business marketing outreach campaign sounds great. Based on property tax revenues paid by Cresco, which you had nothing to do with, there's potential to double the current taxes generated. The potential and possible income tax growth is substantial. Okay, but to this point, it would be zero. Various economic explorations with local properties and taxes generated for that is difficult to estimate, again, but several of these projects were large scale and could generate significant revenues, highlighting lots of potentials, and we are currently seeking. But to date, it looks like we're minus $1,000 on those. Just one pointed out. And, you know,
And we did give numbers about, you know, what the fire station sale generates. I guess the numbers I had were that we get 4.4% from property tax. I don't know if that's like still an accurate number. That's what Josue had from 3 years ago.
And I hope you get $1 million off of that, but the point is, to a certain extent, you may not have gotten anything had you not had control of the building to do with what you felt was best. We might have kept control over it and made it a warehouse for whatever reason. You know, we weren't in the economic development business, but we wanted you guys to be in the economic development business, and so that's why we basically gave you the commission, the $35,000 commission, as a contribution, because we didn't have to do that. We could have sold it ourselves. I think it would have been relatively easy to sell it. As you probably know, you weren't short on people who were interested in buying it, and
It wasn't an easy process, but what I'm wondering is, what would fulfill that desire for getting enough credit or enough sort of, I guess I'm just wondering at what point we say, the parties are satisfied, money is fungible, and we're ready to look forward and make moves for the future, rather than to continue to sort of bring up the kitchen sink each time we want to make a move.
I understand that. I'm just trying to take a good hard look at what's happened in the past 4 years. Speculating on what's going to happen in the next 4 years is fine. And as being a politician, every 4 years we get up there and we speculate on what we're going to accomplish, and chicken in every pot and that sort of deal. It sounds good before it's done, and after it's done, there's a lot of reasons why, or after it's not done, there's a lot of reasons why it didn't get done. I'm not looking for credit because the horse has already left the barn. That's, it's too late for that. I'm a little disappointed it never happened. And, if we go forward in the future, I hope our name is somewhere on there about making a contribution, or at least we have some kind of recognition for it. The very, very, very last thing that I have to say is I was looking over all the different audits and put some of those numbers together, and I had mentioned about the fiscal sponsor, but I can't quite figure out. This is an organization that doesn't have real estate, that doesn't pay rent, that doesn't pay utilities, that doesn't pay employees, doesn't have the medical expenses, and all of those sorts of things. But you need $9,850 for an accountant. What are $9,080 in accounting? What are they accounting? Not to mention $2,500 in QuickBooks. If you've got a $9,000 accountant, why do you need the QuickBooks? Hannah Montgomery seemed to be doing fine in the first couple of years, and you really haven't gotten huge amount of monies or lots of expenditures, a lot more expenditures in the fourth year than you had in the first year. Sort of.
Is that number for the account for last year, or is that
That's
total life of work?
Yeah, it came from your audits.
Yeah, mostly that
audit that we had last year.
Right, and it also had to do with the fact that to make the transaction with the fire station happen, we had to, basically absorb 380,000 and then, push that back out. So that's where,
Which had an effect that triggered that audit process because it looked like we were a big fish. The same with this $100,000 absorbing this prize. So we're set up to run on this little, less than
Let me
$15,000 a year
ask-
dues in, expenses out.
The Community Foundation does not, as of yet, charge YSDC for sort of office services or?
They do,
They do now?
yes.
How much? And it's a percentage or?
that's 7.5%.
It's 5%, but then it's less on the big prize money, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when did that start?
Don, it's been $8,607 since the beginning of YSDC.
Yeah.
But that's basically for the fiscal sponsorship. I guess, I do think it's important to note that the township gained 50,000 above the, what was apprised as the value of the property. So it was, appraised at 330,000. 380,000
That was the
what
intention
came
all
from the
along,
township.
Brian, you know that.
Was that?
That was the intention all along, that it was going to be so. We put that base low of what we expected to have back.
But that was the county's appraisal for the property, so.
The county, give me a break.
But I feel like that's a win.
And they weren't appraising the property because there was no taxes ever generated on it. That was done by a very shaky, not county appraiser, a private appraiser, because we tried to get somebody, but it was based on
Almost no
stuff that was-
comparables.
Yeah,
It was out-of-town comparables.
Yeah, it was in Dayton or Beaver Creek or, some places like that.
I feel like we're going into the weeds.
We are, and I'm sorry, I was never going to bring that up until Brian brought up about, how much more we gave them than we expected back.
Well, only because I want to acknowledge again that I appreciate, because I was there, Chris, when you helped make that decision to try to move the YSDC forward. So I appreciate that we worked together on that. And so, it's disappointing that it didn't work out as well as you wanted it to. But, but I feel like there are some positives, so.
I would say that my ultimate goal, though, is to grow the YSDC so that in the future, we can all look back and say, okay, make sure that Township has, has their names attached to the contributions and the projects that we did together. But ultimately, in the rear view, I think all of our hope is that 40,000 will not be a significant amount for either of our organizations because we'll be turning things, making money moves.
A very last itty bitty little dig that I wanted to give you. Sorry.
Oh, boy.
Digs are
All right.
You know Deb Slater?
No.
Yep. Okay. She made us virtually the perfect website for Glen Forest Cemetery. Tons of pictures, or some video, lots of drop downs, lots of color, lots of blocks, lots of this, lots of that, for $1,500 total.
That's not how I remember it. I remember it being $6,500.
No, it was not $6,500. But
For the new one with the drones and
yeah.
everything?
Mhm. No, that wasn't $6,500. Okay, well, Marilyn, you're always right. Now I'm serious. So we paid $6,500 and you paid $7,000 for our website that I haven't seen yet, but it ought to be a hell of a website
It's
for
there, it's pretty boring.
$7,000.
Pretty dry, it's got minutes on it.
With that, I would make a motion to contribute $10,000 to the fund, whatever they're calling the fund, the new director fund, interim director, temporary director.
I'll second it.
And
Would you like to say something?
No.
We'll take that out of the COVID fund, if that's all right with you.
That's separate.
Yes, I understand that, but it's got to come from somewhere, so I'm just painting the whole picture.
So the request was for 20. It's been moved that we contribute 10, and I have seconded that. Do you have any comment?
I have no comments. But I will find the receipt for the website.
Okay.
Just because I like to see, you know.
You're
the
right.
challenge. No,
I'm sure you're right.
No.
But when we had this discussion last time, you originally proposed 10,000.
It was a rough night. 10,000, I proposed, I pointed to the 10,000 that we initially had been asked. Would you like to say? Yes.
Trustee Moore moved to reallocate 10,000 from ARPA funds to assist YSCC in hiring a part-time staff person. The motion died without a second.
Okay, I guess that's what I did.
I would be interested in comments towards, like, where did the number 20 come from? I asked about proportionality, and for whatever reason, last time I thought 10,000 was what we were being asked, but maybe there wasn't an ask.
Yeah, 20,000 was the ask, but honestly, I think part of it was trying to project out like maybe a year and a half. But as our memo highlighted, we need to figure out, like, after a year, is this effective? And the village has already talked about potentially pulling the position into the village because we need economic development activity. So I think 10,000 is a great number. And
I noticed in your budget for 2024, you budgeted 50,000 for an additional expense. It wasn't earmarked as this, but you did have a number of 50,000.
Yep.
And so 40 and 10 would cover that.
I think it also, I think it's also proportional. I think our budgets are about 4-to-1. So based on...
We can have a whole nother argument about that.
I mean, at least based on what I, have seen. So I think that's a reasonable number. And, part of the memo highlights that we're committed to regular report outs to both the township and the village. So I think that's a great decision if you're comfortable with that.
Well, we haven't voted yet.
Yep. Well, but just to ask, I think 10,000 is a good number. I think we'll be able to secure a good part-time person. And again, we're reviewing 8 awesome candidates tomorrow. So.
Any other discussion?
I just want to reiterate the original ask emphasized that this is a time to do it. There's things if we don't get a person here that tries to attract and build off of the economic development that's happening to the east of us, then we don't know if it's going to work. But we sure as heck don't want to sit there and not try, so, at this important juncture. That's all.
Any further?
You don't want me to talk anymore.
Please call the roll.
It's been moved and seconded to contribute $10,000 to the Yellow Springs Development Corporation Fund for a part-time executive director. Sufficient? Mr. Mutcher? Sure. Mr. Hollister?
Yes.
Ms. Moyer?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
And thank you.
Thank you.
And again, I want to say we appreciate the partnership, and I'm sorry it's not reflected in that memo, but it was really cool to see that you guys donated that 10,000 during COVID. So that was great.
And the business that is there now is called YS Firehouse.
See?
And I would say it has generated some economic multiplier effect.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no question.
even though it's not fully open yet. Which is irrelevant, that doesn't have to be in the minutes.
Yeah,
We have,
if you like. I mean, it sounded like you were dismissing them, but I was telling them they're welcome to say that.
Oh,
Welcome, that man.
we have a couple more major items.
See?
Krista McGaw, speaking on behalf of Tecumseh Land Trust.
Yeah. As a volunteer today, it's good to see you guys again. And by the way, I am running for the Ohio House, but I'm not here as a candidate today. I am here as a TLT volunteer. But I will be around and be happy to talk to you guys more sometime about township needs, because that's something that's pretty important to me. It's a very rural district that I'm running for, so getting the supports that rural districts need is real important.
Krista, give me just a second.
Okay.
121 East Davis Street, Medicaid 2, medical basic care, 121 East Davis Street.
Okay.
It's a little scary. Who is that? Who is that?
That's a computer.
I'm here today basically to make the case for having farmland
Central Medicaid 2 response.
or green space.
That should be it, Krista.
I'm sorry, Kristen, would you repeat that?
I'm here today to underline the importance of having green space funds or farmland preservation funds as a tool for local government. And there is a property that we're going to talk a little bit about that is going to go to auction fairly soon. That has been a priority for Tecumseh Land Trust and for the village for quite some time. I wanted to spend a little bit of time. I think a lot of you guys really know about how the Land Trust works, but just to kind of put it into a little bit of a framework, it's a nonprofit organization, but it does channel money to landowners on a regular basis. There now have been 36,000 acres preserved. And there's a nice little summary. I think I've got a couple extra copies of that in addition to what the trustees received that just kind of explains the work that Tecumseh Land Trust has done. And that is over since their founding in 1990. It was an all-volunteer organization until I got the opportunity to be the first executive director. And I worked there for 20 years, and it was a blast. I mean, just really interesting. From the beginning, the priority for the Land Trust was trying to preserve what little remnants of the land that Tecumseh saw and paddled through, basically. And that's how it became Tecumseh Land Trust. The founders discovered pretty quickly a lot of that land was farmed in the area, and that they needed to learn, educate themselves about farmland and the economics of farmland and that kind of stuff. So over the years, the Land Trust did really get educated, became a part of a national organization of land trusts, and I'm very proud of the job that they've done. The Land Trust goals obviously do embrace farmland as well as those natural areas. However, they're making great progress on preserving land that improves water quality, that filters the water that goes from the farm fields into our rivers and streams. And forests are super important for that. So it has done a pretty good job of keeping up with strategic plans and having priorities over the years, and so have the local governments that the Land Trust has worked with, in particular the Township and the Village of Yellow Springs. The Land Trust has also done work with Clark County, Madison, Clinton, and Champaign to some extent. But we are founded in this area, and this has been the most proactive area as far the township and the village, as far as really planning for what land is desired to be protected. And to actually put funds in place to do that is unusual, and especially unusual for small areas like this. But it is quite a hit at any kind of land trust event or planning conference, because you're in a position where you not only identified your priorities for land use and those areas that you want to continue to maintain as open space or farmland or natural areas, but you also have some money to come to the table. And that is so critical. I mean, it makes such a difference to be able to do that. What the township was able to do, and I'm going to show you guys a map, but I want to kind of just get the big concepts, because maps are so much fun, and we just look right at the map. And so that we've got identified the properties that the township participated in the preservation of. They tend to be more outlying properties than the village's priority. The village came up with this grain belt idea very early on, really, again, fairly unusual. And I don't want to go into all that history, but both entities have been working together in many ways over the years. And it so happened that as Tecumseh Land Trust was finally able to get some other sources of public monies on the table from the federal government and the state government, right around the year 2000, I was hired in 2001. Suddenly there were these monies available, federal monies and state monies. And they all required match. And they basically required 20% match minimum. Clean Ohio was the name of the ballot initiative that the citizens put in place in the year 2000. So when I started in late 2001, we were rolling out that program. And our local governments, right in our own neck of the woods, were ready with some match and with some priorities, which was very helpful. Some of those applications that we made, that the township particularly pitched in on match for, were sort of miracles of the bureaucracy, is I guess the way I would describe it. The people that were implementing the federal program out of the Farm Bill, downtown in Columbus, Natural Resource Conservation Service employees, they wanted to get all the money that had been allocated to Ohio spent in Ohio, because it's use it or lose it when it comes to the federal government. So they called us and said, oh, you guys seem to have a lot of projects lined up. We had 27 people, the landowners, the first year of Clean Ohio, that were ready to try to sell a conservation easement on their land. So we said, well, yes, indeed we do. And how much do you have available? And so we were able to actually go, according to the priorities, to the township or to the village, to put those packages together very, very quickly. So, it was money that would have gone to some other state that Ohio would not have been able to spend. And so it was a real plus for Ohio's farmland preservation program, for the federal Farm Bill farm preservation program, and for the local landowners, which was a wonderful, wonderful thing. I'm gonna pass around the map here.
Pass it around. You get this hand up and I kept these up on. I think this shows the funds that Miami Township gave.
That's the Miami Township funds, right? I do have one of those.
This is provided by Krista.
To contribute to the history part of this, not what you're building up to, but I thought the township contributed to Whitehall Farm a Also,
Yeah.
I don't see it listed.
Oh, this was, sorry about that. The township did, yep, let me get the credit. It did.
I wasn't a trustee at that time.
It did.
I believe it was the monument sub of $13,500.
Which was much appreciated and it was
Yeah.
and it was a success. It was a success. This at a certain point, there were some estate tax monies that were on hand at the township, and this is all money that got spent once that fund got made, and that was after Whitehall.
So this was the
So this is the list I have here today.
estate tax.
State taxes came back to the township when people died.
And
And-
that disappeared in like 2011, 2012.
And the disappearance of that has been hard on small local government. So that you can see that on the map that the brown properties are those that were protected with that farmland preservation fund. The way that it was set up by the township was to be spent down, and then as the estate taxes came back from people who had passed away, they would build it up to this cap of, I want to say it was $109,000 or something.
Something around there,
like that.
yeah.
And so the land trust knew what we were working with, how far could we use that money to use up this federal money that was all of a sudden on the table, almost every fall, So it was like a real regular kind of process that we were able to take advantage of, which we would not have been able to if we didn't have a fund in place. So you can see that the more remote properties are the ones that were township priorities. The closer to town properties were participated in generally by the village. And we're not differentiating that today, but there has been a fair amount of green space fund from the village over the years that has gone into some of those projects as well. The reason that I'm here today is that there is a property that is highlighted in black here on Dayton Hill Springs Road, the Welsh property, the dark green preserve piece just to the west of that block was the Elder Welsh Farmstead, and it was a property that went on auction. I guess it was the early days of the land trust. I'm not sure what year quite, but it was a collaborative event as well, and really got that relationship built between the village, township, and them.
And didn't the former trustee put that in
The land trust.
into the land trust?
He bought it after.
It was after?
Yeah, I think so. He bought it at auction, I think was the way it went. Anyhow, the overall schema here has been that there's been some really good farmland, prime land that's been protected by the township funds. There's been targeted lands that the village wanted to protect to prevent too much growth. And that was really clearly a goal from the beginning, but also to create this feel of nature and a small rural place with an active downtown. You can see the white area that is surrounded by the preserved property to see where is there land close to Yellow Springs that does not have any kind of conservation restriction.
But the light green is unprotected at this point, right?
Right, that's true. That is unprotected, and in addition to that, but it is a priority of the village so far. And the village, I hope people noticed that in the paper this last week, the village has got Elise Giardillo, is that right? Who has been hired to write the next village land use plan. And so they're going to bring it in-house. Which is, I think, a kind of an interesting idea. And so that, I hope, will be another very good planning process that will not just reflect the village, but hopefully also the coordination with the township. And I just can't say enough about how important I think that is. Definitely, that's the land trust preferred method of business. Show up when the planning is going on and say your piece, early on, and hopefully get a good solution that's mutually beneficial.
So what you said was Julia, who was just, I forget her first name.
Yeah, Elise.
Elise.
Denise's daughter was hired, and specifically her task is the land use plan for the village.
Yes, and it's in last week's paper, if you still have
Yeah.
it around, yeah, it is around. So anyhow, I was excited to hear that, because I mean, the village's priorities have changed. And actually, the township plan, great when the township can update theirs to 2012, is what the plan is. So, hopefully, there will be new plans, that will also, complement each other. That would be a wonderful thing. The Welsh family, Don Welsh died not long ago. Two children who are inheriting the land and his estate. The properties that are highlighted in black, which I believe are about 116 acres, are the priority property for the land trust and for the village. Okay? There are about 41 acres west of that are being auctioned in advance of the highlighted property. And then there's also some parcels that Mr. Welsh owned on Jackson Road that are also being auctioned ahead of the highlighted properties.
Is there a date for the highlighted property?
Not yet. I believe August 15th is the first auction for
22nd.
For the other property. Is it 22nd?
They just put the sign up like.
For these, it's 22nd.
For the Jackson and the other 40.
No, not the big ones, but the small ones to the west.
Oh, the small ones to the west. Okay. Okay. So we still don't have
Right,
a
we
yeah.
don't.
Okay.
And I might know why.
Yeah. All right.
Do tell.
So they're looking at that property because there is a strip in front of it that is owned by the property owner on the opposite side of the road. And so they're looking at, does that give them road frontage or not?
Wow.
So my determination was, no, that doesn't give them road frontage, even though right now, it's a matter of feet. It's probably the right of way, but it is owned by the property on the opposite side of the road.
You're looking at,
The black.
yes, I know, but there are two families to the south.
You're talking about the 40 acres that are to the
South of the black, there are two
lake
separate
property.
owners.
No, I'm talking about that black.
Okay,
Right across the road, the
Yes.
light green there.
yep. There are two different farms across
Yeah,
the road.
lake property
Lake
and the
is the-
Hoaglands, and then there's somebody else.
The
that
lake
owns
property owns that sliver, and so that does take away some road frontage. So that was my response, that no, that's not road frontage, even though right now, it's being used to access the field, and they may have an easement. But then.
So you took that call for us while you were working for us?
Yeah, an email. So, so now the auctioneer they're looking at, they pulled something up, and just last week he sent me something, and I sent it to Deandra to help me with, because what has happened is the document and the deed that they have shows them as separate, but GIS is showing it as one or something. There's a discrepancy. Or maybe it's the opposite way. Maybe GIS is showing it as separate, but their deed is showing it as not. It's above me. So, so I sent that to Deandra to ask her to help me decipher that and what to tell them. So that could be why they're holding off on that, because more road frontage, more lots they could get.
Yeah.
And just to say, it's hard to say how much money that might go for, but that the highlighted property there, as farmland, could easily go for $8,000 an acre. We're talking $1 million. As big, I think it's about 116.
How many linear feet of road frontage if there wasn't this complication?
There's enough for 22, is my understanding. Lots.
22 lots.
Enough for 22 3-acre lots.
So that would be
Or more.
660, 22
And
times 300.
my estimate is that $60,000 a lot, you're looking at $2.3 million. And that would not necessarily be high either. Would a developer want to buy the whole thing and put in infrastructure? Don't know. I think
Infrastructure for like a PUD or something?
one of the things that I think is a possibility is that it would be divided differentially, so that they sell some lots, they sell some chunk of land together. I think one of the big motivations for that, the highlighted property even being a priority for the village, is the Western Gateway to Yellow Springs. It's just been something that has differentiated it from Beaver Creek. And there is farmland in between, but there might not always be, and so that's why the focus.
Let me repeat my arithmetic question.
Yeah.
If our zoning requires 300 linear feet per lot, and you think 66 possible lots.
22.
Did you say 22?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's very different. Sorry, I just didn't hear it right or remember it right.
So those are just, wag numbers for sure, but just to say, it could suddenly cost a lot of money. There are going to be farmers who will bid on it, and the land trust has been quietly making contacts with landowners in the area, and farmers, and those aren't always the same thing, because a lot of times people are renting a lot of land. There's one family that rents a good bit of land that's adjacent or very near to that. So they're interested in getting farmers interested in bidding. But it's all kind of unknown. The modus operandi for the land trust with Whitehall Farm and then again with the Arnabis property was similar, I think, to what's going to happen this time. Look at how many dollars you might be able to get on the table among the concerned organizations. And, you have to make that fairly quickly if, in fact, those resources are going to be available. So that's why I'm here today, because it looks like that's going to happen pretty fast. Again, everybody has to make their own decision. Landowners, for sure. The land trust would not be in business if we hadn't respected landowners' property rights very, very carefully. But we're interested in alternatives that, as a land trust volunteer, I like to see the land trust looking ahead a little bit if they can, because it's cliche, I guess, maybe, but our bumper sticker asphalt's the last crop tends to be true. Every once in a while, somebody will get a multi-million-dollar grant to take a parking lot out from a big abandoned mall or something. But it's kind of open-ended question what's going to happen. It's my understanding that there are some monies that are available at the township that could be, at least for some foreseeable period, set aside with that possibility. But there would still have to be, further discussions about making that.
Set aside the loan rather than a grant?
Set aside the loan thing has not really ever been inspired except for the land trust did a little bit of that was reimbursed by Nature Conservancy at a later
So then
point.
what is the set aside?
The land trust is going to come up with some of their own money that they'll put on the table with the village, if the village decides they want to participate in that, and the township, if the township decides they want to participate in that. If the township had a fund, what I would add further is it does give you power in other situations if there were other priorities that would be a priority for you.
It's a commitment, it's not a done deal, it's not,
It's going to depend on the buyer, if
So
the
there's-
buyer wants to do it.
Oh, it's the land, that's absolutely.
But there's an auction, not for this piece, but for the other Welsh pieces on the 15th of August
Chris said the 23rd.
and the 21st of August.
yeah, I think two different dates. The
Oh,
Jackson Road ones are the 15th, I believe,
okay.
and
So
I noticed the 22nd.
you want a figure tonight. I mean, when's the next auction?
Don't know.
Is there any rule about how far, to be practical, how far in advance do you announce an auction?
It sounds like they're stalled only because they've had some problems with boundary lines. And
Too bad you're not staying.
The expectation was they would start auctioning them off. As soon as they know how much they're gonna get for one, they go into the next auction knowing how much they got for the first one, and then they go into the next one knowing what the other ones brought. They're not gonna do them all at once, like some different auctions do it, but it appears that that's.
Now, see, when Agraria was purchased, I mean, you know these details maybe better than me. The Community Solutions had to put down 10% that night, and then we scrambled for 6 weeks to come up with the money. We had no idea where it was going to come from.
And there was an agreement that the land trust had made, basically available to any bidders, about just a basic kind of easement that could be, that, we were saying, we have this much money, we're willing to, work with you. And so I figure, that's kind of what we have.
So the Yellow Springs Development Corporation.
Who's now rolling the dough.
I'm joking.
Here.
Yeah.
And, I just don't, I am just a volunteer here, so I think I have a basic idea of where the land trust is at, and I'm knowing after Mr. Welsh died, we anticipated that this was very likely, because neither of his kids were farmers, and one of them lived very far away.
Oklahoma.
There you go. So it's, kind of something that we've seen potentially coming. And I don't mean to say it's the only important piece of land to protect or to have a say in either. But if you have a fund that your decision makers for your local government can use, you're a step ahead as far as having power at the table.
Well, we don't have a green space fund, as far as I know. So, as far as I know.
Right, we didn't.
I mean, the only thing we have is what soon needs to be obligated, which is our ARPA COVID funds, which we just donated 10,000 of here. I just wanted to say, yeah.
And I think that farmland preservation fund, the end of the estate tax, just, that wiped it out. And the village had just decided it was going to dedicate a certain amount of the estate tax that came back to them from the state as well. And like within 2 months, the state ended the state tax, so.
So Krista, is it relevant to highlight the leveraging piece of the Green Space Fund and, just the federal dollars that you guys have?
Oh, and I think that's pretty nicely laid out here in the chart too.
Okay.
Basically the double money that the township put in, a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
So we put in, we being the township, I was in here, about $500,000.
Yeah. And
Over the
got
years.
$1 million from the federal government, and got, in terms of that rural field goal and farming as an industry, definitely secured some good land.
So how much money does the village have in its?
209,000-ish currently.
And do you foresee participating, or have you not invited them yet?
Michelle has reached out to us offline, so we're going to be having conversations. Yep.
And I think the environmental commission's had discussions
Yep.
and stuff too, so it's, it's a delicate thing to talk about somebody's land, And I think especially when it comes to government, because people do not like takings, not at all. But when you're coming to the table with money, just like everybody else, that's a different matter once you know.
Well,
people want
historically, that farm and what's across the road from it was the biggest target that the village has had in terms of priority of not wanting strip development along the highway, or along Dayton Street, Dayton Yellow Springs Road.
So, I've heard the great lore of the White House story and how it went down and everything just had to be right. So the easement, the actual language of the easement, when does that, first of all, a buyer would likely want the front lots, right? I mean, what would a buyer want? And then we would be looking about the land behind, or we don't know anything yet.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
just
not-
don't.
Depends on whether they're a farmer or a developer.
And just to say, in terms of the real estate business, I mean, what happened with Arnavit's farm, for example, is the sellers reached out to developers, so that possibility of somebody doing a PUD of some sort, I mean, that would be a part of how long did they stave this off? Because I would think that the realtor they're working with would suggest that,
Or just simply dividing it up per our zoning. If they could do, minimum acreage, minimum road frontage, how many lots could they get and sell it that way? That's what I expect.
Yeah.
And I think, I take the 22 lots from Michelle's measurement. I'm not crisp on that.
Well, I have a couple things. One is, we do have these funds. Right now, we actually passed a resolution for purposes within the fire state. That can be reversed, but we haven't really had a conversation yet. I mean, we've kind of stared down at each other a little bit.
You can have one now.
I'm not prepared to have that conversation tonight, but or if we're expected to have it tonight. I mean, are you trying to walk away with an answer? I don't know that I could.
I came in Michelle's place and I don't know. I mean, it's like, we just don't know when that.
We don't know honestly talk between the three of us. Right now it's allocated for the fire station, but, and then the second thing was, and I realized we don't know who's going to buy it or what they want to do. I had talked to Michelle about it, and I don't know when, you guys have a kind of a traditional easement where the easements say no development of any kind.
There's the most basic one probably is just farmland easements where somebody can donate an easement on their farmland and if it's prime soil, the land trust is probably going to be fine with their continuing to farm as is. There might be some general recommendation about best practices, particularly if there's water going across it, because the land trust doesn't want to cause water pollution. But it would be pretty basic, and usually there's reserve rights for one residence and maybe a limitation on the footprint or something like that. But it can be pretty basic, or it can be really complicated, depending on what the property is like and the landowner wants to do.
And what I discussed with Michelle, and I don't know how any of this works. If there's a high transmission line going down Snip Road, so that would be a really nice place for solar. I'm just letting you know that's right there on the line. And I know in the past, some of your easements have been inflexible about solar, and I just don't know if you guys have evolved in what you're willing to think about. And also, we know that Agraria right across the street, right? Agraria's right across the street? They've done
Although with very little frontage, but yeah, it is right across.
They've done $1 million project in restoration of the Jacoby stream. And it doesn't look like it, but it does follow. A lot of it's buried, but that area feeds, it totally feeds. And there was even, Michelle was involved in a discussion of, they had done, I forget, the EPA has these studies that you do community study and get funding to even unearth.
There was some water source project.
Yeah, wetlands, water source, and that does feed the Jacoby Creek. And I mean,
Well,
I even
Jacoby
Ben
Creek goes through this.
Margaret's son was in talks about unearthing part of what has been raped over by cracked tracks. So that this land is really, both for solar and for water protection, I think is really, and like you said, you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know what the buyer's going to be, but I just wonder if there's, and on top of that, there's a time crunch maybe, and I just wonder if there's any flexibility or an evolution on.
Well, I do
on
want
your
to,
types of
I do want to
easements.
address the flexibility for solar. There have been, whenever you do a conservation easement, you define envelopes on the property. So you usually have a building envelope with the farmstead area in it. So most of the landowners who have solar arrays on their property, I guess I would say all of them, they, unless it's rooftop, right? They have had a designated envelope where it was acceptable to build residential structures, appurtenant structures to residential. And so that's been fine, right? And in fact, like the Stockwells were a good example at Fairfield and Enid. They knew they wanted to spend the money they got for the easement on a wind turbine and solar panels. And they've added more since they did it. Steve Pyatt did the same thing with a building that he lives out on South River.
North River, I think.
Oh, maybe. But there are projects now slowly evolving in the country that involve agrivoltaics, wherein you can do your row crop farming within the span of where the panels are. So just to say, big development in Madison County. That's
Well,
going
they'll
on
be
6,000
research on that.
acres. And Ohio State's researching it.
Yeah.
And then there's the Antioch model where they had sheep under the panels, and it's kind of a magic combination because, they mow for you, and they are a farm product, when you're done. So
That's what aviation is, I remember.
there's various possibilities, and
But what about
there's always
the owner's ability to lease their land for a small solar project without having to do the magical agrivoltaic? I know you can't answer those questions, but I guess I'd be community solar or allowing the landowner to have an income stream by, I know there are even people who've been approached, one of our own zoning commission members who lives very close, I don't know where he lives, it gets regular letters from solar companies, and we're not talking about Kingwood type size things, although they might piece it together, but I just wanted to raise that issue, because when we looked at where it's possible for solar to go in the township, it was those two lines out by Cedarville, one that we now know turns north, two power lines, and then a humble little line that follows all along Snip Road. It doesn't look like a high transmission line, but it can support and interconnect to the grid. Not just simply a residential one, but more of a community level one.
And, really the decision about easements and what's permitted on them is a negotiation, between the land trust and the landowner. But with caveats in terms of anybody else's money that goes into the project, So Glen Helen was one of the most complex, it took us 9 years to do that. And it was like 10, I think it ended up being 13 different pots of money that in some way were involved with that. And so, it was, I wouldn't wish that on anybody as far as the process goes. But it worked, in terms of the goal that certainly the land trust had. And through, the amazing thing is everybody stuck with it even through transition of ownership of the college in Glen. Which was a pretty wonderful thing. So there's, and everybody's always got to, the land trust just has to feel like their obligation to protect this into perpetuity. Easements can be amended, and that amendment language has to go in up front.
Well, what do you mean they can be amended?
They can be amended. There's an amendment clause.
So, but they weren't willing to do it for Sutton Farm. I didn't follow that real closely.
You have to basically be at least preserving the conservation values. So one of the examples of amendments is we thought we were going to do something on this 40 acres over here. Actually, it turns out it's better if we do it on this 40 acres over here because it's going to be better for the watershed. So those kind of things can get done.
And you said concrete is the last crop.
Asphalt's the last crop.
Asphalt's the last crop.
Yeah.
I would.
It's rare
to say that solar
isn't concrete.
Isn't concrete. I know it isn't, but I'm being more and more convinced that it doesn't take away. It doesn't take away from the preservation of farmland. So
I want to steer this to this specific, the availability of township money for this specific project.
Well, yeah, isn't what we're entering into have to do with whether we want to do that?
Yes.
Well,
Chris, do you have any?
The purpose statement in the comprehensive land use plan calls Miami Township an agricultural township, and we are committed to keeping agricultural as a viable economic source for Miami Township. We've had that since day one. I don't think there's really that much desire to change from that commitment. We've known about the Wells property for quite a while. A long while, not just since it's come up, but it has been earmarked and looked at and committed to, and we don't want this and we don't want that for probably 30 years anyway. So
more than that.
And it's come up now. Also, through the good works of our fire chief and board of trustees, we're in a better position in financing the firehouse and fire operations than we have been. Now, do we need lots of other stuff? Yes, but $110,000 is not going to buy, all the things that we need in the future. There's going to be a way to get that. We can't just say 110,000. We got to put it here. We got to put everything we have in one place. We have to have a little bit of flexibility for the bigger picture of the needs and the wants of the township. Not so much the needs for these easements, but the wants of the residents who have expressed themselves in the establishment of the land use plan that they prefer to have the township be agriculturally based and economically sound in agriculture. And I feel that I was elected to be a representative of the people of the township, and until they decide to change comprehensive plan to some other land use, I feel it's my obligation to try and proceed as conservative, as fiscally responsible over all of the roads and the cemetery and the fire department and zoning and this, that, and the other thing, to try and be fiscally responsible to that end. And I think this is one way to be fiscally responsible, because this is not money that we're using for other things.
But it's allocated for other things right now.
I realize that, and I think that necessity, which was a year and a half ago, which was certainly realistic at the time, no question about it. And I'm not sure if I was the one who suggested it, but it might have been close. And I certainly agreed to it. But I think we can move away from that right now, and I think we can use these funds for the betterment of
ARPA funds.
Yeah, the ARPA funds. The balance of the funds after the, where'd Corey go? The YSDC commitment for the preservation of Welch property. Keep in mind, these funds are not going away. They will only be used if the land trust is successful in acquiring some of these easements on the property. This fund does not go to them to a pile of funds to be used in the future. I mean, they'd love to have that done, and if we had lots of money like the village does, we put it into a green space fund or something too. But this one, if it's not successful, we do not use the funds.
And what happens to the funds? They stay in green space?
No, they come back to us for whatever we want to use
Well,
them
we
for.
have a December 31st deadline ourselves.
Yes, well, this is going to be settled by December 31st, assuming whatever. The auctions will have happened, and that'll be done. If not, I mean, if it doesn't, then we won't be able to commit those funds. We'll have to put them somewhere else.
If it doesn't come.
If the auctions don't happen, if it gets delayed in the court and whatever, if it goes past December 31st, we'll put those funds to some other commitment, because that's a drop dead date for us.
Some
We can't just
other
say-
defined fund.
Absolutely. But until that happens, I'd like to see it committed to this project through its conclusion, so when it gets concluded this year.
Well, I need more time to think, and I know the time is of essence. I mean, I'm not willing to make that, I don't want to make that decision tonight. If we had the time, I'd love to have, we don't have a good handle on our long-term capital outlays for the fire station. I mean, we need a lot.
For the fire department.
For the department. I mean, I was trying to be convinced that we didn't need a fire engine. That's not true. I don't believe I guess what I'm saying is I don't particularly want to make the decision tonight. You two, of course, are two votes.
I will also say that Fred Krauser was coming here to report tonight on his first task of financial projections for the fire department.
That's for payroll and
Just payroll.
staffing.
Well, he's been talking also
Okay.
capital needs. Maybe he wasn't going to report on that, but
We haven't touched capital needs yet. It's strictly been on capital needs is next.
Well, capital needs, as important that they are, and they certainly are, don't get me wrong, and I feel we put blood, sweat, and tears into getting this fire department to where it is today. But with the capital that we have, we're not going to buy any more big stuff. We're going to have to put another levy on the ballot specifically for new equipment. We cannot do it out of the funding that we have now. And this 100,000 is not going to make much of a change in that.
well, do you have a motion?
I'd like to move that we commit the balance of the ARPA fund money, and I don't have the exact amount, but it was like 133, and if we take 10 off of that, so then that's 113, if that's the case, but I'll just call it the balance, to commit to TLT's use in the event that they are successful in purchasing easements on the Wells property before December 31st, 2024.
I'll second that.
I think it's outrageous to make that decision, having it presented to me for the first time 20 minutes ago. So I'm not in favor of having this vote tonight, but there are three of us.
And this motion is specific to the Welsh property.
Unless it isn't settled by December 31st, then it's stuck in a green fund. I mean, it's available in a green fund.
No, it's not available. This fund?
No, I thought what I heard you say was you'd like to make that available, and it'll probably be settled by December 31st. If it isn't used, we could allocate it any way we like.
Right, we can put it right back in the fire fund.
But we personally we have a deadline of December 31st. And so, but if it isn't settled by December 31st, that money would be allocated for green space, and then it would be in there.
That's not what I heard. What words do you have?
I don't have anything about green space allocation. This is strictly for the Welsh property. Is it Welsh or Welch?
Well,
Welch.
maybe I added,
Like the grapes.
That's right.
Yep.
maybe I added the word green space, but if it isn't settled by December 31st, it's already allocated for that type of purpose. We'd have to take some language and maybe call it green space, just so that we could satisfy the federal government that we allocated it to.
But we have the ability to change that.
What's that?
We have the ability to change it any way we want.
Just as we already have.
Only until December 31st.
That's true.
Well, yeah, well, that's another discussion. If we get that close, I mean, if we get to mid-December or early December and the auction's not even set yet, well, we're not going to be spending this money on it. So then we need to decide what we want to earmark it
But
for.
if they're working toward that, I already know what you guys are going to want. I mean, you're going to want to.
We want to have that discussion then. We just don't know how far out that would be and what we want to do.
You need to repeat your motion, because
What I
Cindy?
have, this is what I have. I move to commit the balance of the ARPA funds to TLT land use for the purchase of easements on the Welch property by December 31st, 2024.
Successful purchase.
Successful purchase.
but let's spell out Tecumseh Land Trust.
Yes, I would do that. That's what I have.
That's the motion.
It's been moved and seconded.
I don't have a second.
Oh, I seconded.
Thank you.
Yeah, he had second.
I missed that.
We're going to do this all tonight. Okay.
And I hear you saying that we don't have enough information, but
I didn't say we don't have enough information. I mean, we don't have a rule. I think council has a rule that you have to propose something one night and then move it and give at least another meeting before it's done. And we don't have a rule that we can't, that we could just often make a big decision that night. So do what you gotta do. I mean, do as you.
That's because we don't have 5 people who can't agree on it.
oh,
It has been moved and seconded.
more to say?
Nope.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Mutcher.
Yes.
Mr. Hollister.
Yes.
Ms. Moyer.
No.
Motion is approved.
We have a full evening and we're not done. We have planned an executive session regarding employee review. Okay, returning to open session.
8:30-ish.
It's at 8:27.
Okay.
Entertain a motion
As a result of
our
determinations.
Executive session.
I would move that we adjust our fire chief's salary to a total of $86,800. No, I'm sorry. We're going to go to 87. Total of $87,000. per year, retroactive to May 10th, was it?
20th.
May 20th. And between now and the next public board meeting, we will determine the most fair way to adjust compensation again due to the elimination of comp time and volunteer paid money. That's my motion.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
Do you have
Any discussion?
you're about to comment.
No.
I have no more discussion.
Then I'll call the roll. Trustee Mutcher,
Yes?
Trustee Moore,
Yes.
Hollister, yes.
I have one more motion that may be appropriate,
Okay.
that we amend the personnel manual to state that comp time for exempted salaried employees be changed to flex time. I mean, are we eliminating those two things tonight as well?
Might as well.
Okay. I'll make
Okay,
a-
I withdraw the motion. We'll just settle it when we settle the
And I
other.
think we'll rewrite the policy soon.
Okay,
Okay.
it'll be part of the whole adjustment that's coming into
Yeah,
it.
okay. So I will move for adjournment.
I second.
I declare this meeting adjourned.